Hi guys, I'm Gwyneth and I'm a Psychi athlete, and today we're at the Depot Sheffield and we're going to try some of the comp blocks here. 4 weeks ago I hurt my finger and so I'm just getting back into climbing. So we thought it would be a good chance to answer some questions about taking time off climbing and getting back into it and how you deal with having an injury. I'm pretty well versed in the old injury front. Just in the past year, I've torn both my A2s and my middle fingers, which means your pulleys. And right now I have a tear in my A4, so it's just the top part of my finger. But I've also done shoulders and knees, so many injuries. I'm much time off climbing. So today I can't really do anything that involves half crimping, but I can stick to easier open-handed climbs. And obviously this will be different person to person. And so I'd really recommend seeing a physio for specific advice. But this video will be more general questions about being injured. So I have already done a bit of warming up. I've rehabbed my bad finger and my previous injuries as well. So they're nice and warmed up. So this isn't like my first climb of the day or anything. But we're going to try this green climb because it's really open-handed in the left hand. So, except for the start hold, but I can use my front two fingers for that. So it should be okay. So yeah, it feels good to be back on the wall. It's been a while since doing comp blocks. Yeah, it felt quite good. I think one of the biggest things about coming back from injury is just learning to trust your injury again. And it does take time. There's no real getting away from that. But I think once you've done it once, it gets easier every time. So before this video, I asked if anyone had any questions about being injured. And one of the things that came up a lot was learning to trust your body again after injury. And for finger injuries, I would really recommend using something like this to practice just hanging weights off so that you just learn gradually what your finger can cope with. So imagine I've got weights hanging off here and you can start in a drag and then go to half crimp and then get more and more weight on it as you go and just building it up every session. The rate at which you build it up will depend obviously on your injury, the scale of it, and what professionals have told you. But for me, it's just a really good way of trusting the finger again. In terms of other injuries, I think just building up slowly, and for example, shoulders, a lot of TheraBand work, you'll learn to trust it the more rehab stuff you do, I think, the more off-wall stuff you do. I mean, that black looks quite open-handed, but it looks quite hard. You can always give it a go. You can always jump off, I guess. Okay, next I'm going to try this black, and I don't know how hard it is, so I might just have to jump off if I think it's going to hurt something, but we can have a go. or just fall off anyway. Did not climb that well. It's quite slippy.
Do you find that you have to be quite strict with yourself in terms of like the temptation to push it and see?
Yeah.
You have to like reel yourself back.
Yeah, definitely. The easiest way for me to do that is to limit my sessions by time, because I always get carried away. So if I put a timer on, say first few sessions, literally 20 minutes of climbing, building it up, think I'm at about an hour of climbing now, before I'm like, nope, stop, doesn't matter what you're doing. And long rests between climbs, so you can just see how your fingers responding to things or how your body's responding to things. And obviously it depends on the day as well and how many sessions you've done that week. But yeah, volume, definitely start low, lower than you think. So that was actually probably one of the hardest climbs I've done since coming back from injury. And one of the other questions that I got was, how do you deal with feeling weak compared to other people or compared to yourself before injury or before illness and coming back into it? And I think the biggest thing to say is it's hard, but just to make the sessions more fun and not really about topping blocks, more about doing moves that you couldn't do the previous session rather than you couldn't do pre-injury, if that makes sense. And also the other thing is perspective. In the grand scheme of things, 2 months off here and there, or 3 months, 4 months off here and there, is not that much in, you know, your 10 years of climbing. So I think that's also a really important thing, and just taking little wins rather than comparing yourself to your friends. But equally, don't push it when you go start climbing with your friends. The first few sessions I've had back, I've climbed purely by myself so that I don't have the temptation to push it just that bit further because my friends have done a block and I want to join in. The hardest thing about social media is, yeah, the FOMO for me. It's just like, because I think when you're part of it, it's great and you want to share the highlights with people. But when you're injured and you can't do things and someone's done a climb that you were trying before, for example, the climb I hurt my finger on, I've seen a lot of people do it since. And well, one, it makes me go, oh no, don't do that. But two, it's always so like, oh, how come they can do it and be fine? And generally with injuries, I seem to get injured more than most people. On social media, it's not shared enough, the struggles of injury. I think that's definitely, people just become quieter when they have injuries rather than sharing the rehab process, because it is boring, so people probably don't want to see it. But equally, it's quite nice sometimes to know that people are in the same boat as you. So that's why we're doing this video. What's this black one? This looks really hard as well. What are you even meant to do? I'm struggling just looking at it, to be honest. I think you're meant to just jump over, but that looks really hard. Give it a go. Or jump into it like this, but obviously I don't really want to do that, so. Oh, I think that might be the way for me. There's a lot of chalk on this hold though, which makes me think that you should use it. Oh, kind of missed it. Or maybe I should mix up my beta. What do you reckon? I think you are meant to catch it like this, but I won't be doing that. Maybe in another 2 weeks' time. Oh, okay. Could do it statically, maybe. Yeah, I think you are meant to. It's fine, it's good practice for if that hold wasn't there. I think this is what I mean by climbing by yourself for a bit, is just learning to do what you can do at your own pace, which is really important. Oh, that felt closer. So I go for an alternative again. Don't know if this is going to work. Maybe I'll come back to that one. So again, just missing out the crimps. That was quite a nice one. I enjoyed that one. Should we see if we've got any more questions? So the next questions have been about motivation when injured, and there's no really hard and fast trick to solve motivation. I found it's really hard to stay motivated to actually getting back into climbing. I think when I was told 2 weeks no climbing, it's like, that's okay, I can do core, running, conditioning, and it doesn't hurt, so it's fine, I'm motivated to do it. But when you get back into climbing, it's like, I'm not really that psyched to do that because I'm just worried all the time. But when you're told to no climbing for illness or injury or any other reason, the most important thing I think is to be happy, so to throw yourself into something else. So for me, that was my degree, or when I have had previous injuries, I've taken up running or swimming, and maybe seeing people that you don't see because of climbing, for example, friends that don't climb or family members that you don't make time to see, things like that, or just giving them a call even, and just doing things that you think, oh, I've always wanted to try that, but you've not had time because you've been climbing. Equally for work, if you can't climb for a long period of time because of work, I think the biggest thing again is perspective. It's 2 months, 3 months off here or there. It will still be there when you get back. And yeah, if you're then motivated, then you can start again. If you're not, then there is literally no pressure to. And I think that's another thing that social media really doesn't help with, is the fact, the feeling of guilt that you should be training all the time, or you need to be training harder than this person, or climbing harder than this person, but you don't. The most important thing is to be happy and enjoy climbing. And I think having time off sometimes almost magnifies that and makes you realise, actually, I just miss climbing, not, sending my hardest boulders. So, yeah. What should we try next? Trying to find no crimps. Okay, some more volumes because that's what we're climbing today. It looks quite hard to get on. Oh, that was a classic comp climb. Just like, yeah, I enjoyed that one. See, it's just nice to climb again. Okay, that was the easiest one we've done today. That was easier than it looked. It's really hard to know sometimes. I'm gonna try this red. Something to note is just here I'm gonna have to do a dynamic move onto my left hand. So I think, again, it's trust, but we'll see how it goes. Oh, I'm pretty psyched by that. Yeah, it actually feels okay. Answer a question while we think about it. Okay, and then now we're going to talk a bit about maybe preventing injury, and I'm obviously not a great example of this, and I'm still learning, and until you learn from your mistakes, but apparently not. But it's learning about your trigger situations. So for me, if I've had a really long week at uni, or I'm just really tired, that's when I'm more likely to get injured. Or if I'm stressed. For me, stress is my biggest factor. Every injury I've had has either been the week before a big competition, or after a big week of university. So it's just learning when those times are, and maybe easing off a bit of the training or not doing that last boulder of the session, taking more rest days. Again, like I say, I'm not a great example, but that for me is when it is. But for other people I know, it's if, for example, they're hungover or they haven't warmed up properly, that's when they're more likely to. But yeah, for me, it's stress, I think, is my biggest thing. Or fueling as well. If people are hungry, that's a lot of time when they get injured or dehydrated. And then the other question I had was about daily prevention of injury. So we were talking about this when we were warming up, about how after you've had an injury, you're really diligent with your warm-up and you take a lot of time over it. And then as you get better, and you're especially going outside, you're less likely to warm up. So I think the biggest thing is to just have a routine that you do every single time you go climbing. It doesn't matter if it's indoors, outdoors, for a competition, training session. Do it every time. Maybe not doing the leg warm up when you're just doing a fingerboard session, but being really diligent, not just after injury, but the whole time. And then the other thing is icing your fingers, or cold water swimming, or something that promotes blood flow is really important as well if you've got niggles, especially in your fingers. So yeah, really would recommend icing fingers. It's really hard to know when you're overtraining, I'd say, because, well, for me, I always think I can do more, and when you're younger, you can. So because I've been climbing for such a young age, I could do a lot more 10 years ago than what I can now. Your body just can when you're younger. So I think learning to adapt to that is really important. And also, for example, for me, it depends on the type of climbing. If it's really crimpy climbing, or like, for example, peak limestone, I can't do more than 2 days. Or I can't do more than one day in a row. I'd have to mix it up and do some comp blocks, but I could probably do more days in a row on big volumes and shouldery comp blocks than, say, someone that climbs purely outside. So I think it depends on your body, but I also think it depends on how much you have previously, and you need to build it up like a pyramid. But more rest days is apparently what I should be doing. So even when you're climbing at your best, that's when you're most likely to get injured, because you're pushing yourself more than you would normally. So when you're climbing at your best is when you should take more rest days than you think, if that makes sense. Let's have a look. Orange one. It looks kind of tricky. I feel like I might shin myself. Nice. Again, missing out the crimp. Yeah, it's just nice to do some flowy movements again. So yeah, thank you for watching, and hopefully I've answered some questions, or at least shed some light onto the fact that everyone gets injured and everyone has hard times with their climbing, and it's not all the sunshines and rainbows on Instagram, but it is still fun. So yeah, thank you for watching.